Wow, thank you so much for sharing your words this morning, and thank you for sharing that behind the scenes video with us. I had seen the shorter version, which, highlighted the poet laureate and is so powerful.
Yeah, she was fantastic, wasn't she?
She's fabulous, so I loved getting to see the behind the scenes of that. Well, I'm Alex. I'm with United Way of the Piedmont, and I'm excited to be here with Mike this morning. And we are live in the Q&A, so if you have questions for Mike, drop them there. I've got them right here. So we're just going to jump right in for a few minutes and kind of have a discussion.
Sure.
So thank you again for being with us this morning and sharing some words of wisdom. So I'm going to try to get some more words of wisdom from you if I can. So one question that we have is, what is one piece of advice that maybe someone gave you about being a leader and that you've kept going back to, and maybe that you've kept going back to in particular right now with the times we're seeing?
Yeah, that's a great question, Alex. A long time ago, somebody said, if you want to be a leader, you better make sure you have some followers.
Yeah.
And, to have followers, you need to have a sense of awareness. Not only awareness about who you are, but awareness about the people that you've been given the privilege of leading. Because at the end of the day, we all have different backgrounds, we all have different personalities. For those of you who like the Myers-Briggs, I'm an INTJ. I work with a lot of ISTJs in the banking business who love detail.
Sure.
I don't necessarily love detail, but I love to have people on my team who love detail. So, you just learn over time to get to know who you are and get to know who the people are that you're leading. And so I think awareness is kind of one of those keys to the leadership kingdom.
I love that. I love that. At United Way of the Piedmont, we use the Strength Finder. So
the Strength Finder,
yeah,
okay,
that one's
perfect.
A good one.
Perfect.
That's a good one. So another one I had was let's see, we've got some coming in.
Okay.
So a fun one, how do you as a leader deal with stress, maybe in these particularly stressful times? What are you doing these days to relax?
Wow. It's interesting. I've never been a stressed out individual.
Good.
And, I've not been particularly stressed out over the pandemic. I'm kind of live my life one day at a time. Because I can accomplish about anything if I do it one day at a time versus thinking about a huge project that has to be done in 6 months. And that'll overwhelm me. But if I can break things down to one day at a time. Every morning I take a long walk. I took a long walk this morning. I enjoy watching tennis.
Okay.
Although tennis is a bit of a different experience right now. The U.S. Open is currently being played in New York, and there are no fans there.
Right.
And it's kind of different.
Sure.
And as my team knows, I have a crush on Roger Federer.
Okay.
And Roger's not playing because he's gone through a couple knee surgeries, so he's not there anyway. So, but I enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I enjoy. I do devotions every morning when I get up, just to kind of level set myself every day, and that's a tremendous stress reliever. And just recognizing that by the grace of God, He's in control.
There you go. I love it. And I think you kind of mentioned pieces of that even in your remarks today about being in the moment, talking to your team of, don't worry about what happened in the past, but
Right.
let's take this situation, let's tackle today. So I love
Absolutely.
that living in the moment sort of theme that you got. Another thing you mentioned in your remarks was kind of the similarities between the mission of
Right.
Truist and United Way of the Piedmont, which I really hadn't even known until you mentioned it. So that's really cool. And I think it speaks to the fact that we're both mission-driven organizations.
Absolutely.
So how are you keeping your team and your team members focused on the mission and mission-driven?
Well, it's interesting. I typically get up between 4:30 and 5 every morning. And when I got up this morning, I said, you know what? I don't think I've taken a look to see what the mission is of the United Way of the Piedmont. So that's the first thing I did, was go look at the mission. And after I read it, I said, wow,
Yeah.
very similar to Truist. And if you think about, inspiring and building better lives for people in our communities, for inspiring and transforming communities, as the United Way would put it, that's a pretty big, bodacious kind of mission.
Sure.
And the way we accomplish that is by serving the communities that we've been given the opportunity to live in.
Yeah.
Involved with United Way, involved with our churches, involved with community foundations. There's plenty of opportunities for my teammates and your teammates to be involved throughout the community, and it's because of that commitment and involvement that we help fulfill that mission every day.
Absolutely.
And if I look across my team, it's unbelievable how involved my teammates across the state are involved in their communities.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Well, we've got some more questions coming in. One is, what are some of the most important things a leader can do for a team that's working remotely to help people maybe from becoming disconnected or getting some of that Zoom fatigue? What are some of the strategies in this remote world?
Well, we're all learning how to do it, obviously,
Sure.
and it does wear on you after a while, but at the same time, I think we're trying to figure out ways to have some fun with it. I have a call every Friday morning with my team across the state, and we typically have some fun with that call to
Sure.
engage people, to laugh a little bit. And I start the meeting. I sometime during the week pick a song to be played
Yeah.
to kick us off.
Sure.
And last week it was James Taylor just came out with a new album of classics,
Gotcha.
and he did Moon River.
Okay.
And Moon River is just kind of a happy
Yeah.
song. But we've done happy songs. We've done a lot of Motown.
Sure.
Quite frankly, to get people
Oh,
pumped
yeah.
up
Some
and
Zoom
excited.
dance parties.
Absolutely.
Great.
And so just find ways to have fun with it.
I think that's great. I think that's great advice. Yeah.
And don't be afraid to be on the screen. And even if your dog barks in the background, or I've had kids enter the picture.
Sure.
I've had kids say daddy or mommy, and
Right.
it's been kind of fun.
Yeah, we're all human.
It's brought us all closer
Right.
together.
You're seeing that personal
Yeah.
side of people through the screen even. Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Well, we've got some more questions. How do you encourage multiple communities to collaborate to drive change that is really needed from a statewide perspective? Because you're involved in a lot of different, more statewide organizations. How do you see that sort of collaboration happening across the state?
Wow, that's a great question, and it has one of my favorite words is collaboration.
Right.
Because my sense is we don't collaborate enough in the communities we live in. We don't collaborate enough across the state of South Carolina. And the only way to do that is to say, yes, I want to collaborate. I want to work with other people on projects that benefit my community. And I'll use an example here in Columbia. We have a number of organizations who have economic development in their mission. And getting them all to work together and to collaborate for the ultimate benefit of the economic prosperity of the community is just difficult.
Sure.
Because everybody has their own agenda, everybody has their own little mission, things they want to accomplish. But at the end of the day, we have to be able to accomplish those things together versus apart. So it's just hard work, Alex.
Yeah.
You just got to do the hard work.
Got to do the hard
Yeah.
work.
You got to be able to reach out and connect with people that maybe you haven't connected with in the past.
Sure, that's great. That's great advice. Well, you mentioned this a little bit in your remarks as well about Truist's investment in continued investment even
Right.
through COVID in our communities. So what are some of the biggest ways that companies can continue to make a substantial difference even through the pandemic, but both within their companies and in their communities, because I think, internal and external impact is important.
Yeah, as you might imagine, I think companies across America, and let me just talk about the banking industry, because
Sure.
I believe that the banking industry, and I'm not just talking about Truist, I'm talking about Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and so on and so forth across this nation. Banks have always been invested in their communities in lots of different ways,
Sure.
both from a charitable standpoint and the fact that that we lend to small businesses, we lend to large businesses, we lend to low to moderate income neighborhoods, and those kind of investments are only increasing as a result of this, particularly around the issue of racial injustice and inequality. I think we've all had a significant wake-up call throughout this.
Right.
I know that I've had a couple epiphanies through this. The whole issue of Black Lives Matter, and all I'm talking about is that sentence, Black Lives Matter. I'm not talking about an organization or a movement. And I finally woke up one morning and I said, you know what? Black Lives Matter because for 401 years, we have not been acknowledging that Black Lives Matter. When we brought the Africans from Africa to Charleston, South Carolina, to place them in slavery. And we've been saying that for the last 401 years, that Black lives don't matter. And they do matter.
Right.
And because when those lives matter, then the rest of our lives will matter also. And so I've been doing a ton of reading, as I know my teammates are, around this issue, and I've got a lot to learn.
Sure.
I really do.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most important things that you see the companies, and particularly the banks, investing in. How do we, we've had some very raw, hard conversations in our company about this issue that have been, quite frankly, painful.
Sure.
And I know Bank of America's had those same conversations. I talked to Kim Wilkerson yesterday about that. She's their state president. And so I think a lot of companies are starting to have those kind of deep, raw conversations.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's where it starts,
Yep.
having conversations. Well, we've pretty much reached our time, and we've gotten through a lot of questions, and we apologize if we didn't get to everybody. But I want to thank you again for some great words of wisdom this morning.
My joy, Alex.
Good. Well, we've had a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun here this morning.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
Staying true to those words. Well, we have one more video to show you before we send it over to Paige Stevenson, United Way's CEO, to close us out. So with that, I will send it to the video.
For many in our community, uncertainty lies just around the corner. The weight of financial instability, illness, medical bills, and childcare has been too much for many to handle alone. While this year has been more difficult than most, these are not new problems. United Way of the Piedmont fights for the education, financial stability, and health of every member of our community. We bring together local nonprofits, businesses, community leaders, and stakeholders to solve problems. We are the conveners, the uniters. That's why our mission is to connect, engage, and inspire people to transform our community. But there is still more work to be done. We have bold goals for the future. Through our financial stability work, by 2030, we will decrease the number of individuals living below self-sufficiency by 11,000. We fight for the long-term stability of every member of our community because we believe that everyone deserves the opportunity to thrive. And that means everyone.